Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Neon Twilight, everybody, with your host, Solaris BlueRaven. Now, all of you know probably that she's been around for longer than I have been. Doesn't make her older, but it does make her older in as far as radio podcasting goes. And she has been a forerunner for a lot of people. She has sort of set the pathway for those who are interviewing and bringing information forward in time. She has 2 radio shows. She does them both on Freedom Slips Radio. You can catch her over there, I think, Friday and Saturday night or Saturday and Sunday night. I can't remember which. And she has been someone who has set the bar for all of us to make sure that we do our shows with integrity and with insight and with compassion. And so I'm so honored that she has decided to do Neon Twilight on Nightlight Radio. And I'm so glad that she's invited me to share the time with her. So welcome to the show, Solaris.
Oh, hold on. Oh, hi there. Thank you. I was muted. Thank you so much. That was beautiful and mutual, too, by the way, insofar as mutual respect. Happy you're here, and I love doing the show with you each month. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So thank you very much for having me on board.
Oh, it's a delight. And what I love most about it, aside from being with you and having, sharing time with you, talking, it's the kind of show that, we draw from our own personal experience. So it's not a matter of, let me read 12 books or, let me research and see what someone else has said on these topics. And we kind of just let show make itself happen, though we do have a starting point. We just don't know where we're going to end up.
That's right. We go in one direction, but I think that's okay. We go into a kind of a multi-dimensional space, and then it goes multiversal, and you never know. But that's okay. It's good.
Absolutely.
And I think we're going to discuss. Go ahead, hon. Go ahead.
No, it's your show, for God's sake.
Well, it's our show. No, I was going to. Well, we're talking about Men in Black, and very, very interesting and auspicious, I guess, in the illusion of. And I kind of wanted your feedback on this, too, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you come from a family of FBI, right?
I do, actually.
Okay, so you're kind of a spook baby, then. In a good way.
my excuse me, my dad was in the FBI during World War II. And he had lots of old ladies hitting him on the head with umbrellas and telling him he should enlist and be in the Army. And he had to try to explain that he really was in the Army, but he just didn't wear a uniform, and it never got him any place. He got hit a lot. But
really?
Yeah, and I have some of the newspaper clippings from spies that he and his, he was a field agent. He wasn't high or anything like that, but he was a field agent. And they did track down and arrest quite a few spies, and it was pretty kind of interesting to look over the newspaper clippings of the spies that they arrested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that fascinating.
Well,
it seems to me like that timeline. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, my parents divorced when I was 12 or 13, and so I didn't get into this field until well after, he was not living with us or anything like that. And I never had the opportunity, now that I look back on it, and I could kick myself, of talking to him about what he did and how he did it during that time frame. So I
think that's very interesting.
My material is limited on my dad and the FBI.
Well, I think that's cool, and it probably is for a good reason, in the sense of maybe it's good that you don't know that much, but the illusion of, but I think you do intuitively anyway. But what's interesting about that timeline is I always thought, like, back then it seemed like they were just different. There was a lot more mysterious mystery about them, in a sense of what they were up to, and I kind of wonder, even if he was a field agent, if he wasn't exposed to some anomalies, and besides the spy rings, because back then, especially in that timeline, there was a lot of experimental stuff going on, so you never know what he might have observed.
Well, the one thing I know he did observe, which has fascinated me all this time, and again, couldn't talk to him about it because I didn't know about it when he was alive, and then it was only afterwards that I learned about it, but he was sent out to Long Island to a test field there, and they had a number of cars set up in a row, and they filled all of the gas tanks with water. And then somebody went by and dropped a little white pill in each one. And they waited for a couple of minutes for the pill to dissolve. And then they started the engines and the cars ran.
Nice. How cool is that?
No gasoline.
That's very interesting.
No emissions. Nothing. And he said it was something that was copywritten, and that the government bought the copyright, and it was never heard of again.
This is what I can't stand in the illusion of, is why all this wonderful data is being obfuscated and has been for such a long time. And as you are aware, we don't have to go through all these cycles of whether it's gasoline or something else, even electric cars. That's not even practical, in my opinion. I think you could do something way beyond the spectrum of that. So this is what I mean by, this has started a long time ago with this kind of hiding all these very important patents, or buying them or purchasing, like I said, the copyrights, this, that, and the other. And then, of course, nobody hears about it ever again. And if you find an inventor who's really good or skilled, or has something special going on, they try to either take them down or, disappear their work.
Yeah, this was in 41, 42, in there someplace. And so, it's kind of like you hear about this, and then you think, is our government really our government? I mean, you're right. They when a lot of the cancer cures that were holistically evolved came out, they tried to squash them. The Laetrile people went to Mexico, I think, and then there was the Essiac material. She was from Canada, and her stuff did cure cancer. Some forms of it, not it, but she had so many success stories that she was put out of business. And you hear about stuff like that, and then you think, why? Well, I know Big Pharma comes in here, I understand, but if the government is really there for the benefit of the populace, why are they preventing the populace from getting materials that are so much better for them than what Big Pharma has to put out? Right.
And I know we're not supposed to talk political, but it does dovetail into what we're discussing.
So long as we don't get into regional politics, I think we're okay.
Oh, we're all right in the illusion of space-time. But my point is, that this is nothing that's new, in a sense of the corporation under the guise of a government, which is really just a corporation funded by federal investors, or foreign investors, rather, in my opinion, So you're still dealing with that, but yeah, like I said, it is about control and obscuring everything from the mainstream or the mass collective. I guess I would rather call them the mass collective at this point, and it's not acceptable. And I never understood that. I really don't to this day, and I refuse to be part of that, little lemming thing that everybody just kind of, they just kind of fall asleep. And no, I'm not doing it. And obviously we're not doing it. We haven't. So it is interesting to see this because it's a shame. We could have had so much more going on here and more positivity, more healing, more benefits on a global scale. Because what the prosper is around here, the beacon here, what it used to be the beacon of light would radiate elsewhere throughout the world. So it wasn't just like, America's just consuming everything. They're actually radiating the energy, the intellect, the technology, and then all of a sudden that's like a light infusion to the whole world. Excuse me, well, you don't see that anymore, do you? We can get into that, but...
No, and it's
depending on where
sad.
you want to go in the rabbit hole. Yeah, I know it is that. But the Men in Black tie into this because they were around to intimidate. If you look at the profiling back in the day, or from what I've read, it is about, making a presence, being mysterious. Sometimes in the earlier days, in my opinion, they seemed a little more supernatural. And then later on, it morphed into something more like, I don't want to say organized crime, but the idea was to push people or bully them into silence or manipulate them into a fear mode to a point where they wouldn't communicate anything to anybody. And you have to ask, are they just a myth? I don't think they're a myth because where I've been, I'm very aware there are different types of technologies that can create a supernatural group of people in the sense of how they communicate through the beyond classified technologies of synthetic telepathy and beyond that. So what your thoughts are on that?
If you go back to the X-Files, they suggested that the Men in Black were not human, but they were really of extraterrestrial orientation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then if you go back to the Men in Black series of movies that were fabulous, they had a different job dealing with the extraterrestrials. I know they exist because when that UFO landed on my campus, the next day we did see these dark cars with these men in black and sunglasses and hats, briefly flash by. But I saw them. So
right.
Now what gets me, if they were supposed to mingle with the population, that's not mingling, that's setting them outside of the population. So
yes,
there had to be a different purpose for them to create fear, for sure. You don't hear a lot of Men in Black stories connected to Area 51.
Right. No, you don't, because it's a national security site. Excuse me. In a sense that it's all our personnel, so I guess you wouldn't. But you're right, insofar as any type of anomaly, there's usually somebody who shows up with a kind of ominous background that you're describing as someone who had a psychological imprint because you remembered that. You remembered what they looked like and the vehicles. And so have a lot of other people who've had UFOs or even a type of extraction, whether it's through extraterrestrial or a MyLab or something. So that's going on, no doubt about it. I don't know if they're still as active as they used to be. Nowadays, I think they just send regular personnel and, they still have the shades. And you're right, insofar as it could be a hybrid. It could be a hybrid collective. And also this type of people, this group is, in my opinion, so programmed that they can reflect an extraterrestrial kind of persona where their personality traits are kind of strange and not necessarily like your average bear.
Well, you go back to the X-Files. Their Men in Black were really weird. And I don't know if there was any other place Men in Black were depicted that I saw. They may have been depicted elsewhere, but I never saw any of it. And yet you don't hear of them anymore. At least I haven't. And
right.
and
I haven't either.
And we're kind of in the genre where if there were Men in Black, we would have heard about them.
I think so too. I think they changed the formula, to be honest. Like I said, I think back then it was more of it had a real effect, and it's had an effect for generations, if you ask me, because this is why we're discussing it. It's been around for a long time. Nowadays, it seems like they just bring in their intelligence communities and And a lot of the time, in my opinion, they come in twos and they'll just kind of, nonchalant kind of show up and ask you a few questions and be very friendly. Some are, some are not. I'm only going by where I've been with the types of covert technology I've been around, but I know there were people that showed up and we thought they were Mormons or whatever those people are that show up 2 by 2. I think they're Jehovah's Witnesses. But anyways, but they weren't. And this is my thing, is they worked for the, but nowadays it's a different formula, like I said. But back then I think it was more ominous, but I still feel, and also have this kind of inkling because of where I've been with the tech, that there is a very mysterious department that probably still exists that doesn't really show themselves these days, more cloaked and, just kind of probably for the breakaways or something beyond the spectrum of mainstream.
Well, I kind of got the feeling that they were developed to blend in, and they just didn't.
No.
And like you said, like you said, they probably, kind of refined it so that they do today now blend in. But they looked so official and so scary that people were afraid of them.
Right. And I think a good example of that is, I think it was the Mothman, if I'm not mistaken. That was one that people had claimed that some kind of men in black were around, with their dark vehicles and their attire, so to speak. So there's that. But once again, you can affiliate that with perhaps a division of some kind, maybe FBI or something else. And just the way they dressed back then, a little more, I know back then they had, more flashy attire, the cool hats and, the shades, this, that, and the other. But it is interesting to see. But I find the biggest thing is that they were trying to silence people and intimidate them. I don't think they were there to be friends. It was more about, keeping your mouth shut and you didn't see anything and, move along, nothing to see here kind of thing. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got. Insofar as not exposing it, not putting out a real story, a real analysis, but literally cloaking it.
Yeah, because you look at J. Allen Hynek, and they were interviewing people for information. They weren't told, don't talk about this or anything like that. They were just trying to get information. It felt like the Men in Black had the information, and they were trying to skew it or spin it a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the time they'll talk to targets of interest just to see how much they know. How much how much data have you absorbed? How much have you retrieved? And sometimes it's conscious and subconscious. If you're dealing with off-world intelligence, in my opinion, you're getting imprinted and you're interconnecting to some degree, which alters you. So that's a huge database. That's a whole different thing. It's a whole different type of field of energy. And just like when we talk about spirit and consciousness, how it changes our field. So I'm sure that was something they were looking at too. But yes, it's real fascinating to me. I've always been interested with it. And I had my own ominous experiences in 2004 with them, but not the way people have. Like I said, I was all cloaked through the communication system. But to me, they were very supernatural oriented in a sense of ominous. There was an ominous presence about that particular interconnection program and the type of communication we were doing that was very beyond the classification of what they have today. If you ask me, I still believe that, even from 2004, because back then they weren't even touching some of this. And if they were, it was very, hush-hush. Nobody was talking about it at all, to see how far it could go with that type of project.
Well, do you think they were seeking people who were contacted, or do you think they were trying to scare people off even talking about it? I mean, I can't figure out what their purpose was. Mm-hmm. Because
I think it's intimidation. Go ahead.
They didn't seem to be looking for information. They seemed to already have it.
Yeah, it's more like damage control. That's kind of like what the feds do now. If you have a local law enforcement takes a case and all of a sudden the feds show up, well, it's like nothing to see here. You guys can move along. We'll handle it now. And that's the same scenery, except it's a different formula. But it was like that because they would show up and all of a sudden it's like they're either doing damage control or they're doing a different type of assessment, looking for something different that a regular personnel wouldn't be able to see, especially if they were like regular law enforcement or something. So that could have been it. But I think the intimidation issue is huge because so many people were willing to communicate what they were seeing. They probably didn't want everybody and their mother knowing about it and talking about it, especially through the media back then.
Well, wait a minute, though. Who do you think the Men in Black were working for? The government or the extraterrestrials?
I think they're working for the military industrial complex or some branch, some cloaked branch, some organization that's probably more black science technologies that we didn't really know about. It comes to mind as, like I said, we had a lot of those scientists come over after they have a lot of the German scientists and the other tip in a branch. Yeah, a breakaway. But to me, it seemed like it was more connected to that versus off-world species. I think off-world intelligence has a whole different formula for communication. And to me, I don't think they use a middleman like the government. I know it's funny because people say, they're going to go visit the White House and they want to have or the Pope or somebody. And no, they have no interest in communicating with these people who are puppets on a string around here. They want to talk to the descendants of the visitors, which is basically star people. And they don't qualify. I mean, they might in their bloodlines, but they're just regular bears, they're regular Joes, just like anybody else when you look at it from a cosmic view.
I don't know. I get the feeling that they weren't working for our government, that they were working for the extraterrestrials, trying to find out how much we knew and if we were informed or not informed. That would make greater sense. Because
that's interesting.
In other words,
Go ahead.
Talking to people and scaring them off talking about it if they really had good information, and intimidating them from talking about it, because that makes more sense, because they were so obviously weird themselves that, government would have done it differently. I'm beginning to think.
You have a point. I mean, go ahead.
No, I'm beginning to think that maybe
we can program people easily to behave that way, to behave kind of off, especially if they've been through a social engineering, or MK Ultra related projects. They have a different kind of persona, a synthetic alter, a program that runs and makes them kind of strange, if you ask me. If that was their personnel, maybe a split psyche, split consciousness, or even if you live in an underground facility, that changes you to some degree if you're down under for a while. I mean, I'm talking Australia, literally living underground, to a point where if you do surface, as a regular civilian or whatever you want to be in government, I would assume that you would probably have a hard time adjusting, just like they do when they get back from wars. They have a hard time blending in. So that's just a thought.
Yeah.
It could have been an exotic project that they were connected to, and they're so, interconnected with what you're designing, what you're talking about, extraterrestrial design, that they probably just, that's how they function. That's the best they can do.
Maybe. I don't know. The more I look at it, the more I think they stood out so much that people got to recognize them. And if they'd been government, the government would have done everything they could to hide them.
You would think, yeah. Unless they wanted to create a psychological war and do something with their version of reverse engineered technology and extraterrestrial design. It's all up in the air if you ask me. No pun intended, but it could be anything on a lot of levels. I still find it very fascinating, and nonetheless, there's a mystery to this whole world, as we know, and especially when it comes down to where this country's been and the exotic technologies and where we're heading. That's why when we look, we know we're light years beyond what we're doing right here in the Illusion of on the timeline. So wasting our moments here in this final show is just ridiculous, with this, once again, the linear drama boards and all that.
Yeah.
But you don't see the Men in Black anymore. Yeah.
So it's either that office has been eliminated or it's been upgraded so that we don't recognize them.
Correct. Yeah. More than likely absorbed into something else, another area. And then, of course, just like Space Force, for example, that's something, not saying they're MIBs or not, but my point is the access to the information and beyond classified, they do their best with what they have access to. So it could be something along the lines of that. But the thing is, a lot of us have like I said, we're very exotic, too, in our own ways. So you don't have to work for divisions anymore to be part of something that's way beyond the spectrum of here. It's kind of a blessing.
Yeah. I just, it's sort of like, I kind of wish somebody like that had approached you, because you would have had a ball with them.
I was interconnected with them. I mean, in a sense of this communication system, live feed real time, and the type of people besides the initial people who extracted me into the project, there was definitely a supernatural intelligence behind it, beyond AI, very, very much so. I can't say it's Men in Black, but I did write about it in my book, Eye of the Remote. And there were things that they communicated that you just can't even make this stuff up. I mean, there was stuff that I was being communicated with as things were happening real time, and then they, go to the phone, pick up the phone. Your sister's going to call you and tell you your mother's just passed. Sure enough, I'm in this mid-trance, walking to the phone. It starts to ring. I pick it up. It's my sister telling me. can you make this stuff up? It wasn't me that was like perceiving that. It was them interfacing me and communicating. So there was a lot of that. Just to give you an example, right? And some other things. I mean, there's so much more to it on a different scale. So I do look at it like there was a huge esoteric signature there, possibly Men in Black, or what I would connect to as somebody beyond this classification project, something way beyond the spectrum of that. But I find it very, very interesting. And I think, like I said, I think we're all part of it to some degree, even if we don't want to be. There's something there. But I wish, it would have been nicer just to go in and have a look around and see things the way I should have seen them instead of having this, cloak and dagger kind of scenery going on and on. It was kind of crazy.
Well, imagine what cloak and dagger is like today.
Oh, I know. Well, the thing is, once you're modified or once you become changed, I mean, whether it's through your consciousness and your DNA or through technology, then you're different, and there's no going back. There's just no going back. We can't play that card anymore. We can't go back to the nursery. And that's what I mean by breakaway civilizations and societies. And that's how I'm always focused on off-planet intelligence, because it's not an obsession. It's just a gnosis of understanding the bigger scenery. We can't stay in the same old pattern anymore. We've got to make a huge, jump and a leap beyond this configuration. And that's what, that's why I guess I like this idea behind what they are in a sense of the Men in Black. And, you look back in the old days, a lot of these pilots had seen so much. I know we have plenty of books. I mean, look at you. You've written books, just some great books on, Roswell and everything else. And of course, these people, where are they now? Some of them have passed away. They've left a legacy of information. And how correct is the data? Well, do we really know? Or has it been edited? I think for the most part, some of those pilots were wrong. They were spot on. What is your impression?
I think that what's happened is that they played with the minds, and I think what gets me really upset is sometimes I sit and think, okay, I know things. I can't prove it, but I know things, and I don't know how that happened. And it's kind of like, was I fiddled with at some point in time? I mean, I drive some people crazy when I say something, and they say, how do you know? I know. That's fact.
Well, your DNA is, I think I would call you definitely upgraded DNA sequencing, advanced. And, coming from your background, whether you were connected and had deep conversations with your dad or not, anytime you're affiliated with an agency, they never kind of leave you alone. I mean, you're always looked at remotely, or they keep a file. Not that they're going to bother you or anything like that, but my point is there's always something in the background. There's a signature associated. But I find that you're an exceptional, what I call star being. And obviously, you've done so much spiritual work that's put you in a whole different orbit, plus your own psychic experiences and information you've received with the beings you work with. So I find that we're all, like I said, descendants of the visitors, and how we create that and how we work with that energy here is what it is. It depends on each person while they're here. I was more into the machine realms. I was into the artificial intelligence and things beyond before they even decided to work with the software programs they're working with today with, AI and this, that, and the other. So, that's why I'm more like that, because that's the biggest influence I've had for the past, 20 years. Was you might as well just wipe out what I was when I was little in the illusion of living and just put me in a cosmic schoolroom, and that's pretty much it, And that's my point. Well, like, you don't just drop them back 20 and back. There is no 20 and back where I come from. You don't see that. So.
What about what they did with the kids, like Project Phoenix and some of those other projects where they took the kids and they literally time traveled them, and they jumped them to the moon, and then they jumped them back. Now those adults are now talking about, those that are still alive anyhow, are talking about it, and people don't believe them. And I find that
is MK Ultra too. Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
yeah.
You go ahead.
I think the people don't believe them. First of all, it's not even in their radius to understand anything. I mean, when I started to talk about synthetic telepathy, it was like, oh, she must be hearing voices. They automatically assume it's madness versus technological interface. They don't get it. Okay, they are completely dumbed down. And no offense, but it really is true. When I look at some of the people that have had those experiences you're describing, I think they were extracted at a very young age for mind control. And with that comes, whatever they were using to control, manipulate them back in the day, inserting false dream memories or creating synthetic alters. Who knows how far they went? And I'm sure they have imagery of something beyond this field of perception. I'm sure of it. And I find that a lot of the time when people have experiences that are galactic beyond the space-time, they come back with a database that's very, very cohesive to the true cosmic origin. And then there's this other part of it that kind of runs interference to make them more confused. So I think that's where a lot of them come from, in a sense of they run interference to keep people from sounding that they have all the data. And I may sound like it's not really conspiracy related. It literally is that, because a lot of the time they don't want anybody having every single detail correct. But I do know once you hit firewalls and beyond and you get it through the firewalls and you start really, really looking and seeing and getting confirmation of the data, they don't like that at all. I'm talking our military here. They do not, their national security and everybody affiliated does not want anybody who is not part of their department accessing that. So otherwise they would have left me alone a long time ago.
Let's also realize that our military is only the show military. It's not the real military. Mm-hmm. And when you look at what's really going on, when you see what's going on the surface, and then you realize that this bombing back and forth between countries is ridiculous. It's almost like it goes back to Troy and Sparta and all that, because the techniques and the military expertise that we actually have is so far above whatever is going. It's like throwing sticks and stones compared to what that second level of military actually has. And yet,
well, that's so true. Even Space Force isn't even like, they're nothing compared to what's really off-world intelligence. Off-world intelligence, networks and systems is really the big deal. But that's not connected to the corporate Americas or the military here. I guarantee you they're not. They have no affiliation. And they're not part of the global planet insofar as the military here. So when you look at off-world intelligence, their biggest fear is having something out there that can completely outshine them in a microsecond, and they can't do a damn thing about it. And I know that. And I know that they're out there. And this is the thing. So when you look at it on that level of technology, that's where their fear comes in. And it's shameful to me that they just can't step up to the galactic neighborhood and just work with these on a higher level. But, they have to clear their database insofar as their personas and personalities. And what you're describing here, this third world agenda, the way they're trying to completely destroy each other and gut each other's countries, and the way they're misusing, everything. And this war has to end, right? But you don't see it ending. As a matter of fact, we're seeing it escalate. So, and that's not going to solve much. Yeah. I mean, what, you're going to take out, basically it's collateral damage. The people are going to be the ones in the line of fire mainly, and everything else is kind of automated. So, those are the people like what we're seeing in, with North Carolina and such. Go ahead.
Well, that's what gets me, because the human beings are cannon fodder. They don't care. And I think what really gets to me is what we've seen with the hurricane that just hit. Our military could have been called in second day. And now they're allowed. And now they could have come in a humanitarian way. The National Guard could have been activated and wasn't. Yep,
they were waiting on their orders. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I've been doing some research on that, and they've been waiting. They were waiting on orders. They had people with private helicopters trying to do rescues, and they were being discouraged and threatened to say, "We're going to arrest you if you try to help these people." I mean, this is sick. Okay, this is my 2 cents on it. How on earth? Why would you stop somebody to try to save somebody else's life if they had the means to do it? What the hell's wrong with these people? And yet they're waiting on orders. I have news for this military. I have nothing against military, as you know. I come from a military family. But I must say, at some point, you have to question the people that are giving you the orders and say, what are you guys really doing? Because people are dying and they're suffering and they're drowning. And you think it's okay. Then you want to give them, what did you say it was, a $700 check versus, don't get me started. But my point is, it's a slap in the face, and it's not acceptable. And these things can be avoided. They really can.
But, you think about this country, and this is just so not what this country stands for.
Exactly. And, the spirit of America lives in the spirit of every being who's here as an American. And
Absolutely.
You see that the people that are rescuing each other in North Carolina, the people that are there with their pilots and their planes, I applaud them for going above and beyond, getting the food, getting whatever it is they need to get independently. That's the spirit of America. I guess people forgot. But that's the spirit of America. It doesn't live in D.C. It doesn't live at the Pentagon. It doesn't live in your little, corporate media and this, that, and the other. It lives within each heart of those beings. And that's what I saw. But then I see these other people that are literally waiting. And I guess the military, I don't know if they just get so desensitized, but at some point you have to say something about it. You can't just see something, say something, right? Everybody's trained to do that. If you see something or you hear something, say something about it. Address the situation and tell people how wrong it is, right? And don't be afraid of repercussions.
Well, I've been through hurricanes. Nothing like what went through the middle of the country. Nothing like that ever. That was worse than an incredibly big tornado. It was. I've never seen such devastation. And
I looked at the footage. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And
those poor people. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like Katrina. I mean, there was the same. Now the Samaritan, the Samaritans are in there. The Red Cross is in there. I think at this point, Home Depot is sending stuff. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of stuff being sent there, but the need is so great that you want to do something. It's sort of like, now I lived in New York when 9/11 happened. We had ash falling where I lived. But if the wind was right, I was about I don't know, half an hour outside of New York City, and I looked at my mother and I said, when there's a death or something like that, you bake a casserole. What do you do when it's almost 3,000 people? How do you help?
Right.
I mean, it's.
I think prayers were the best part of that. I mean, that's all we could do. I mean, I was in Colorado at the time, but I think I might have mentioned this to you, but I was supposed to be teaching a martial arts class, and I went over to the dojo, and my students were there, and they were upset, obviously, and I wasn't. Obviously, I wasn't doing well either. And so we just held hands and we prayed and we meditated and we just said, let's just send some energy, because we weren't in any mood to do anything else. So, but that's my point is sometimes you just send the energy. If you can't do the physical stuff where you're, you're there, where you have a helicopter, this and the other, just sending the energy, sending the shield, sending the light, whatever you can do on that level too. I think it's a support system. I think it does help. But that was a horrific thing. And like I said, I think all of us, that was when the world really changed. America really changed during that whole transition. And I think things have not gone back, forward.
Well, what gets me now is they're rescuing people and trying to take them to hotels. And the hotels are saying, sorry, but we've got fugitives from the border, And it's like, so our people are not able to have a place to sleep. They just lost everything because now, see, that's not right. I'm sorry.
No, it's not right. I think they should just empty the White House and let them go ahead and stay there. How's that sound? Let's just send them all over to the White House and say, you know what, they're fired. You guys can move in. Okay.
Not being used by much, but no, seriously.
No, that's my point. That's a great place for them. There's plenty of rooms there. But no, it's interesting. And the thing is, we can talk about the money they're getting too, and it's just, they haven't earned the right to acquire that money, these people. And you can say however you want, but you know what's going on with the border and the illegal stuff that's going on. You take care of your people first here. You take care of your Americans here. And then you can reach out to everybody and their mother later on. But right now, no. And then, like I said, the minuscule checks is a slap in the face. They can't take care of anything with that. People have lost their families, their lives, like you're saying, their homes, livestock, horses, dogs.
Not only that, but there was no more money than that to give, and yet we sent billions of dollars to Iran.
Ukraine.
I mean,
Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Prime example of why.
No, I'm with you. I mean, it's kind of like take care of indigenous first.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's a 101. Yeah. But it tells you what contempt they have for the American people. If anything, and I'm sorry, but that's the reflection I see. I don't see sincerity. I don't see compassion. I don't see anything but automated responses that are very generic, very shallow, and nothing else. And as I said before, Harris is making all the comments about what's going on. She's the one that's been publicly speaking. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. I wouldn't be surprised if she was secretly sworn in as president, because he's not really around much, and she's the one that's taking the helm. and she can't take that helm unless she's been sworn in secretly. So how much does anybody want to wager that something happened behind the scenes where she was sworn in? If he's not fit for this presidential position, then surely they did something behind the scenes. Just something to think about.
Well, 50 years from now, maybe the truth will come out.
Well, we'll be off planet, and by that time they'll be extinct. But the people that are here suffering in the moment, that's not okay. Even animals, I don't care. It's not okay that this is the way they want to trash America. This is their final move on the chessboard for this country, which treated them well, that gave them the opportunities to be in the positions and the illusion of power. That's not okay that they're doing this to everybody. And they need to be aware of that. Okay? And stop pretending that, you're a threat to us because you say something we don't agree with and you ruffle our feathers. Too bad. The truth is something they need to digest. They need to understand that they're in the wrong. This is the ego and the psychosis with these people. They don't understand. Surely they understand they're in the wrong. Surely they understand that they've damaged this country, and they're still damaging it.
Well, what I don't understand is, yes, they're damaging it. They're draining it. They're turning us into possibly a third world country or a fourth world country. But why? I mean,
because they hate it enough to do so. And they must hate this land and country. That's the only thing I can think of. And I also look at the contracts initiated with Project Paperclip and everything else. Prior to when we had these advanced space projects and this classified, beyond classified technologies, we still have them, and they're breakaways, in my opinion. My point is that it feels like they've sold this country, literally sold this country, that it has new ownership now, not the United States of America is what it feels like to me. So I could be wrong. But a reminder that it's a corporation. And whoever's decided to buy the corporation is obviously a foreign investor, and I'm not talking extraterrestrial. So to me, I look at things like that. Like they hate this country enough to gut it, okay? And that's a shame. I can understand rebuilding or doing something like to improve on something on a landscape, but not gutting it, not gutting the people, not making all these people who have worked so hard and were so patriotic to this country for their own ancestors, with their own blood, helping create this country, for them to just wash it away like it never mattered. Are you kidding me? And a lot of these people know what I'm talking about. Every one of you had military relatives. I mean, I told you when they had World War II, when the big Pearl Harbor happened, I had my uncles and everybody. They were underage. They lied about their age to get into the military so they could fight.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can take it back even further because I had relatives who were during the Revolutionary War were Minutemen.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Northeast, they were called Minutemen because the call would come, and in a minute they would drop everything, pick up their rifle, and go.
Well, we must have known each other. Were you on the Mayflower, your ancestors, by chance?
Well, yeah, by marriage we were on the Mayflower, but before then we were here. Okay. We were here before the Mayflower.
I know that on my mother's side, we were here with whatever one that showed up before the Mayflower and then the Mayflower. So that's why I was curious. We probably knew each other. Our ancestors probably fought side by side.
Well, yeah,
and the Revolution. Yeah.
I had an ancestor who was one of the judges in Salem. So
wow, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, you've transmuted that for their behalf. Thank you for transmuting that energy.
Yeah.
Right?
But
that's not light.
it's sort of like knowing your heritage is a cool thing, and certainly doing your genealogy is a cool thing, and when you look at the history of this country and how people here have fought so hard for independence, from
mm-hmm.
tyranny, from control, from whatever. One of my favorite movies of all time is 1776, the musical, and
mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of like they struggled. It was difficult. They the time they put into trying to get our independence and what the Revolutionary War was all about, and to think that we are more enslaved now, a population, than we were then. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know many people who are not enslaved to their credit cards or to mortgages. I mean, that's a type of slavery as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have to work for a living to maintain your life, absolutely. And I'm not saying being lazy, but my point is that this is a snake eating its tail. then you're a slave. You have to work. You can't afford the luxury of not working because you won't eat. You won't have a place to sleep. And that doesn't even mean you're going to be okay. I mean, people work their lives, and all of a sudden they lose everything and they have nothing, and then they are in the streets, or things happen. Like you've seen the economy go crazy. It's gone sideways to such a degree the past 4 or 5 years that we have, these people have lost a lot of money. They've lost everything on different levels, and I see a lot of people, like older people, even seniors, living in their cars because they don't have an opportunity like people coming over the border or an option anymore. They're literally just cast aside. And there's something wrong with that. Now, this is why I say that they're out of touch with what they're doing here in District of Criminal sometimes, because they're not paying attention. And if they are, there's something wrong with them. You just don't do that to people. I don't care if you love them or hate them. You don't have to love everybody or like everybody. But my point is that that's the position you're in the illusion of power, and that they're not doing anything that shines for this country or the people here.
Well, you know what I have always wondered. A number of years ago, probably 20, maybe a little more, they did a whole thing about these 800 FEMA camps that were scattered all over the country, and nobody knew what they were for, but they were all manned and they were all supplied and they were ready. And when Katrina happened, it would have been a perfect chance for people to be put in those camps because there was food and there was shelter and there was medical stuff there, and has constantly been with those people coming over the border that we couldn't vet, put them into those camps, take care of them, and vet them. I mean, really vet them before you turn them loose in the country. And if they turn out to be criminals, send them back to where they came from, but keep them in the camps so they're not overwhelming the general population, and those who are criminals won't have the opportunity to attack the populace. And those camps were there. They are there, and they're fenced in. They would hold them in place until they could be processed and released into the country or sent back. But they've never been used.
I think the border would have been sufficient. Oh, go ahead.
But, those camps have been there for at least the last 20 years, stocked and ready, and not used for anything. Why are they ready? What are they ready for?
Well, I have news for them. They're not taking anybody who's just a nice American who's trying to make a living here. So I hope that they do something with them. Maybe they should just destroy them then. I don't know. Maybe they're not relative. Maybe they could have everybody who's been a criminal stealing from the American people in those camps at this point in space time. Who knows? But I still think the border was a really good idea, and that, there's nothing wrong with that. Securing, you want to lock your door in your house, I don't see any problem with that in any form. But all of a sudden we have this going on. And like I said, I think it's strategically done. It's premeditated, and obviously for a self-destruct sequence within the United States of America. I can't even look on the opposite side of this and say that this was an accident. It's not an accident. This was done deliberately. And just like the things that we're seeing, I've heard. Well, go ahead. Well,
look at the government loading planes with people and depositing them someplace in the U.S. and not telling anybody what 300 people on every plane. And they've been taking them all over the country and dropping them off. They've
been dropping them off in Denver. Colorado is a big one because it's a sanctuary city. And I've said it before. I used to track planes over my house because there are various reasons behind that. But there was one time when these planes were flying, at least 4,000 planes over my house on the weekends. That's a lot of plane activity, okay? That's insane. I counted it, okay? So there's no disputing this. I actually called the FAA on it. I said, you guys, what's going on here? You guys are bombarding me. And where I live, it's supposed to be like no air traffic at all. So, sneaking people in or whatever they're trying to do in the illusion of space time, I don't care. But yeah, what they're doing right now is undermining the United States of America on so many different levels. It's terrible. And then you're seeing what's happening in North Carolina. And I did hear, now whether it's true or not, I've seen a lot of footage on it, that FEMA was stopping people from bringing in any supplies to help those who were stranded. They were literally confiscating the supplies from people who were trying to drop off. I don't understand that, and if anybody can validate it, that'd be great. But if that's the case, there's really something wrong with the picture here. Why would you stop somebody from helping someone else?
Well, maybe
they didn't water or medicine.
Maybe they didn't want the traffic going into the area to further complicate it. But they could have taken
the
material and distributed it. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, I think they're taking it all right, but my point is I don't think they're doing anything with it. And I really believe, honestly, from where I've been, and I've lived kind of up in the mountains, so I'm familiar with our communities insofar as how we function, how we're self-sufficient, or we try to be as best we can in situations. And believe it or not, for people like FEMA or whatever, they can function. People are smart. You know, some of these people have pilot's licenses and, you know, ham radio operators. They're really, you know, they know how to deal with stuff, and they're quite intelligent, and, you know, they're not little imbeciles that are wandering around trying to feed everybody. So my point is that these are professionals that are trying to help too. They're not just, you know, stupid people wandering around. And I think that should they should take a look at that and see what's going on, because a lot of people are basically not benefiting from them obfuscating or stealing or taking, however you want to say it, you know, whatever it is they need.
No, it's so frightening. I mean, you want to help and you don't know how. I mean, you can contribute to you know, frankly, even beyond the Red Cross. I'm not too into the Red Cross because of what they did during World War II, but the Good Samaritans, Billy Graham's group, there are several groups like that are you know, they're 100% for taking care of the people. Are you familiar with what the Red Cross did during World War II?
I know, refresh my memory on that one.
They helped to smuggle Nazis out of Germany, along with the Pope. Oh yeah, they were giving credentials to all sorts of military personnel to get them out of the country.
That's very interesting.
One of my favorite, you know, things that I studied as I came along. I just that time period for some reason fascinated me. But so you know, it's kind of like I'm all for donating money to certain places, Tunnels to Towers, Wounded Warrior, ASPCA, all of those organizations. I'm fully confident are being used for what they're saying they're being used for. I hope.
Well, I don't trust anybody. To be honest with you, I believe in the X-Files motto, trust no one. Really is true. I mean, there are certain people you can trust. I mean, obviously our inner circle type stuff, but my point is that for most, you can't take them at face value anymore. You can't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore, and especially when they're organizations like that. You know, I don't trust anybody, and that's what I mean by this is a precursor. What's happening in these areas with this hurricane is a precursor for the American people, because if we have anything that escalates with this war going on, with this cyber war going on, you just don't know what they're going to have up their sleeves to dismantle the United States again. You know, they've bragged about having terror cells here already. The FBI has warned everybody about this with this open border for the past 4 years. They know it's going to happen. It has the great potential to happen, and yet they're not doing anything to stop it. And with the surveillance that we have with satellite systems, you tell me you can't track these mother effers? I can't swear. My point is that, yes, they can track them. So, you know, there's no such thing as an unstoppable crime or an invisible crime. These things can be tracked. I hear the dog.
Well, look what happened with the ports, you know, being closed down and everything. Did you see that stuff? The head of the union. Yeah. The head of the union got paid $781,000 a year, drives a Bentley, has a yacht, and
crazy.
Nobody's worth that kind of money. Nobody.
They're not, and that's what I mean by somebody's getting some money for something. You know, that's quite amazing.
Well, and even look at the presidency. The president gets his salary of $400,000 a year plus $50,000 for extras, but he gets that $400,000 for life.
I don't believe that. I don't think that's fair. If that's the case, everybody should be. I said it before. Everybody here should be a billionaire, not even a millionaire, because everybody can. I think people can be millionaires because all you have to do is buy the property. But in my opinion, I think billionaires. I think everybody should be a billionaire like that. I don't think it should even be nobody should be disputing that. I think that everything should be divvied up. And that's how it should start, and not with the people coming over the border. I'm talking Americans, and not specific colors. Just, hey, let's start moving on here. That's just me. That's what I do. But yeah, it's crazy. If you want to make everybody rich, if they want to sit there and get themselves rich in Congress, which I know they have, when they're investing in this, that, and the other, well, hey, man, you guys aren't playing they're not playing a fair game here, okay? Which means everybody's been kind of left out, and everybody's working like dogs and not getting ahead at the expense of a lot of other things. So I would say that needs to be rectified.
I'd like to see it all restructured so that there were term limits. I mean, there are some members of either Congress or the Senate who literally have to be rolled in or carried in because they can't walk anymore. And
right.
When I have to be rolled around, but see, the thing is, I'll still be able to talk. But if I
you're
can't
sharp
talk,
as a whip.
Well, I am 80, but
like Pelosi's a prime example of somebody who literally should have retired a long time ago. So I mean, some of these people don't belong in there, and they've truly made a lot of money, way too much money if you ask me. Comes down to it. And like I said, we have a different type of technology where you can not necessarily transfer the consciousness, but you can take the database of each person and interface it into a software program and a quantum design work and have your artificial intelligence have a database of them. Whether they want to interface it back onto an inorganic host like a cyber type of unit or artificial intelligence biosuit or something, they could. I mean, I'm talking exotic technology, but it can be done. It can be done.
Look at what we've got. We've got laws, right? And when people break the laws, depending on what your position in life is, you get to go around them. And that's not fair.
Right. It's a club. Laws out of lawlessness, I call it, because the system is corrupt. It doesn't work.
But
it's illegal. It only works for the criminals.
You have to prove that the law has been broken. Now, if you're just, blaming somebody for something that they didn't do and taking them to court and making them, go through trials and everything else, and then have the Supreme Court, back up everything that was right. I mean, the Supreme Court can only do so much. But when you see things like what P. Daddy has done for 25 years, how do you get away with that?
That's disgusting. That's what I'd like to know. Why weren't they tracking him a long time ago? I agree. No, he obviously had somebody paid off.
And Epstein as well. How do they get away with that for that long? And of course, they were making other people rich so that they could still do what they wanted to do. I think the laws should be ironclad, and they're not. They're flexible. You can go around them. You can not apply them.
They rewrite
them
too. You have dirty people writing illegal laws. I mean, you have all this laws out of lawlessness is what I call it, because these laws don't have any validity. I mean, they're from a corrupt system. So a lot of it has to be just redesigned, like you said, beyond redesigned. I think it should be zeroed out. And I've said it before, I would see artificial intelligence as one of the things to work with insofar as not having these corporate governments and these departments anymore. I think that you just give it to AI. An AI that's actually not part of a software algorithm to discriminate. So the kinds they use, like we are very familiar with these big corporations using the wrong algorithms with their particular software programs for artificial intelligence, which is prejudice beyond prejudice, and bias. So that we don't want that. We're talking something off planet. But something like that would definitely work. And like I said, and I actually said this, and I probably said it to you, but the beauty of this, I said we were always looking for anomalies. I'm an anomaly, and you're probably an anomaly. And I mentioned this before because I didn't see Musk hopping on board, and he is an anomaly. So he's a wild card. I find it very interesting. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. So we'll see what the anomaly does, because that could be a good thing, a very good thing.
How do you program compassion? I mean, that has to be a part of it.
Spirit, if you ask me.
Well,
I agree, but I think that most of the time when you're talking about computer programming, because when you're doing that, you're taking the template from the target. The target has compassion. If you're taking the type of database and, everything there with the neural circuitry, this, that, and the other, integrating it onto a software program, then you'll take in the imprinting associated with compassion. Sometimes people have compassion and they get programmed into getting triggered by objects that make them cry, when in fact that's a program. That's actually like an MK Ultra program, but it works. So my point is that I think that you can integrate compassion into a software program, into an artificial intelligence, absolutely. But off-world intelligence has compassion. It's more of a neutral positive compassion, but it's definitely a compassion of not trying to destroy, like the Terminator kind of thing. Here, they just want to play God with a little g, if you ask me. I mean, I watch people suffer every day, and the reason I say it like that is because if these people don't need to be suffering. Nobody needs to be dying of cancer. Nobody needs to be sick. Yet this is being done. I wouldn't want to spend my whole life trying to come up with ways to destroy people. I really wouldn't. I'm just not a good supervillain, okay? But some people apparently want to be. I'm more like a superhero. I'm more like that, but not like this other stuff. I just don't understand it. I really don't, Barbara.
No, and that's where I am. I have compassion for people that, you know, walked thousands of miles to come to this country because it would be a better place for them. But if they're sleeping in the streets, it's not. But they've been given cell phones. They've been given money for food. They've been given shelter. They've been given the medical.
They've been treated better than the Americans. Yeah.
Exactly.
The thing is, they're treating them better than Americans. Americans are suffering. Look at the homeless. We have homeless. And don't tell me we don't, because I've seen it. A lot of homeless Americans, okay? Vets that need help, everybody else. And like I said, taking care of your own people. And we don't even know what they're running from. So maybe some of them have hard stories and they really are looking for a better life. And okay, a lot of them are not. They're criminals that have a lot of bad blood, a lot of bad things they've done, and they're hiding over here, and they're going to reenact their whole nasty criminal syndicates and everything else. So to me, I just think it's not a good move on the chessboard. And anybody who has a firing neuron would have known that. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out you just don't let criminals in, okay? You just can't. You just can't. If you want, unless you want to do a demolition on your masses, which is what they're doing. If you wanted to just sit there and say, we want to take out all these people, so let's get the next wave coming in. These are the pawns of the chessboard.
Do you think this is a way of depopulation?
Sure. Well, it's going to take out the Americans, the original Americans, and they're going to replace it. They want their workforce. Well, these guys aren't going to work. I mean, they don't want to work. You can automate everything as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, these guys, in my opinion, I think that's what they have in mind. But then eventually it's going to be very, very bad and very ugly, if you ask me, because you've got gang wars already starting to surface, and just the quality of entities. I wouldn't even call them people. They're just programmed to such a degree with such bad stuff that it's going to take an awful lot to clear that out. And it's putting almost like a virus that puts an infection on the country right now. This country's suffering financially. They don't have money because they've given it away to these guys, or they've given it to Ukraine or somebody else. So they can't even help their own people. What the hell's wrong with this? Who on earth even wants to have a DC right now after that?
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, and not only that, but I think it's Israel, I think it was 8,000 or 80,000 Americans still there, and they weren't pulling them out. If they want to leave Israel, they have to pay for their own fare out, and the airlines are now charging $8,000 a person to fly them out of Israel.
Wow, that's quite a bit of money. 8,000.
Yeah. That was
insane.
just on the news today.
By the way,
yeah.
Was it? Hi, Mark Eddy. I'll just say hello. He's listening.
Uh-huh.
Welcome.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, like I said, that's a lot of money, though. But you just watch. I mean, this is going to escalate over there, too. What's going on? It's already escalating. You know, I'm waiting for something very bizarre to happen here on the mainland. And you're the one who's doing the monthly reports. So, please let us know. Send us a bat signal. I have my own stuff I'm looking at, and yeah.
I sent out the one for November, not November, October. October's forecast.
Yeah, I just want to skip this month. Just kidding.
And I told at the bottom of it, I said, between the months of November and January, that time frame, stay out of crowds. Just
that's smart.
Hunker down, because it's after the election where I think the real trouble is going to start. And
if there is even an election, that's another thing. If you think there's going to be an election, or you feel there is, I'm still looking at a reason to not have an election, like the stuff they're doing right now in the Middle East, for example, to postpone an election, or you'd be surprised. But I don't know what your radar says.
I think there will be an election. I think that there's already stuff underway trying to cheat, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. And, I have an inkling as to who's going to win, but I don't think it matters. No matter who wins, I think there's going to be riots. And those riots.
That's only because they've been programmed to riot. Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, we know what's been programming them to riot. Yeah.
And what's even worse is that won't stop them from, if it's Trump, and it looks like it may be, I'm not saying it will be, but it looks like it may be, the attempts on his life are going to increase tremendously. And if anything happens to any one of his family, I would say everybody better watch out, because his anger will not be easy to hold down.
Well, it's not going to be his anger. It's going to be a lot of other things. It's like a unified collective at this point. We're not talking, patriots on the right. I'm talking America is pissed off, okay? So it's not about right anymore and left anymore. A lot of people have fed up with this corporate government. And I will give you this. I know that Harris is slated to win. She's pre-selected. But I do know Trump is supposed to win. And obviously, and this is where the division is. So whatever's going on here, we'll see. But my point is, I agree with you in a sense of probably have some really insane behavior going on. And let's not forget what they have across the border to amplify that, too. It creates the distortion even further. So,
well, I do know that
it could have been avoided.
According to conspiracy theories, it's been said that they have snuck in missiles that would be able to shoot down Trump's plane. Again, if anything happens to a member of his family, I don't know you'll be able to hold him back. And
no, I agree, but I think he's going to have a lot of armies with him. It's not going to be him alone. And it's not going to be a few patriots hanging out here and there like their January 6th BS going on. We're talking the American people, but also on a global level and something beyond global. So I find that, they've pushed and they've been a lot, what I call passive harassment. They've been picking and attacking and using war to control and manipulate the masses to a point where they're acting violent and psychotic, and they're not taking any accountability for what they've done. And we know, as anybody who's profiled them knows, the watchers watch, okay? Let's put it that way. And I've seen an awful lot, and I've observed and done my own analysis. I'm sure you've done it yourself. And this is not going to end well for anybody because of the way they started this war. And they want to project it onto the other side. I'm like, we have media footage. We have sound bites of what you people have done to create all this, to spike it up. And it doesn't have to be this way. You could have stopped the border. You could have shut the border down 4 years ago. You didn't have to allow the criminals to come through so they can create terror cells. The FBI could have put the stops on it. That's what they're supposed to do. We started talking about the good FBI back in the day. What's wrong with you guys? Seriously, I know there's some good people out there. All they want to do is sit there and go, they want to play the game. They want to look good. They've got the great title and the great legacy of a building and an alphabet agency. What the hell are you guys doing? And why are you sitting there picking on certain groups that are patriots when we've got worse things coming over the border? You guys aren't making any sense to me. And that's just my 2 cents on the whole theory. Honestly, if I were in charge of that division, I'd be looking at the border and putting a stop to that border and putting pressure on the White House to say, hey, man, you can't do this anymore. You've got to seal that. And I guess she did it like a whatever it was, a Photoshop or whatever. Not Photoshop. Well, that's brilliant. A photo shoot or whatever it was over there, try to pretend she was going to do something about the border. She's not going to do anything.
She was there for 15 minutes. She was there for a picture op, and then she left. That's
what it was. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all game. This isn't a game, guys. There are life forms here. Okay. There's consciousness. There's intelligence. This isn't their world. Okay. This is a bigger world with a lot of different beings here, and they don't have that right. They have lost that privilege. It's kind of like you guys are going to get your licenses yanked, your driver's licenses to be in the White House because you can't do this. Okay. This is not all right. And I don't care who your boss is anymore. I don't care what they're worshiping, and I don't care who they signed off with behind the scenes and under the table. I don't care anymore. I do care about what's happened here. This is no good.
I would like to see a 3-party system. And the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are not what they used to be. My grandfather, back in the 30s and 40s, was a Democrat. I think he would look at what's happening today and he would be rolling in his grave if there's anything left to roll. Yeah. It's sort of like the party system doesn't seem to work. But neither does the election system. None of it seems to work. And, we're a republic. We're not a democracy. We're a republic.
Exactly. Oh, I hate it when they say democracy. I know I get so angry. Like, this is a republic, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, alien life forms. I don't know why they keep saying that. It's definitely a republic. At least it used to be. And, yeah, no, I agree with you. And I've always been kind of independent, but back in the old days, the illusion of voting, I would go Democrat or Republican based on who I liked. I didn't have any prejudice, okay? It was about who's going to do the better job, and I didn't see this bickering going on. And if I had a dispute, like I'm voting for this person, my friend's voting for somebody else, we wouldn't care. We're like, all right, so what? We'll see who wins. But nowadays, it's like, man, you got to watch your back because people come after you if you're this side or that side. I'm like, can't people just get along? And that's all social engineering, and we all know this, right? The polarization, the enemy patterning, all part of it.
I've been an independent my whole life, and I always say I vote the person, not the party. However,
right,
I have come to the point where, especially if an author, I book people before I have read their books, and I read their book the week before. And once, and only once so far, as I was reading the book, it became so obvious. It was so politically oriented. It was so viciously one party and not the other that I canceled. I couldn't put that material out there. And it was like, I made a great excuse up, and I didn't say, because I love this author's other books, but it was this book that he became so politically oriented, so nasty, so vicious, so spouting lies, stuff that I knew were lies, that I could not put him on the show.
Well, good for you.
I just couldn't do it.
That's awesome. I don't blame you. I wouldn't do that either,
And I have one friend who is very, very, very politically oriented, and we decided a couple of years ago, she said, we can't talk politics because we believe so differently, and I want to keep you as a friend. And I said, I think I agree with you. We just won't talk politics ever. And we don't. And we're still good friends.
Yeah, that's a shame, though, in a sense that people can't even agree to disagree, right? For me, I'm not political, but I find that religion and politics are two things that have destroyed this world. Organized religion and political corporations, the club. To me, it's just been a waste. What a waste.
Yeah, you just said it. All of those organizations have become political corporate organizations. They're no longer no longer parties that have different, belief systems. They are corporate entities that are selling a product, and there's a difference. And that's
why I'm independent. I'm universal. I just can't be part of the equation, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I like being part of the galactic neighborhood, and I think they should have paid attention to the cosmos instead of bickering amongst themselves and setting each other up and creating this global agenda where people are suffering, and nobody's winning in this. And even if they think they're winning, they're not. They're being defeated by being unevolved.
Look what's happened last 20 years. One party's in power, and they do a whole bunch of stuff, and the next party comes in and changes all the previous party did, and then they're going back and forth, just countering each other. If they'd left the wall up,
I call it stealing crayons from each other. No, I totally agree. Go ahead.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, this is Republican or this is Democrat, and I'm the other, and so I have to negate everything you did, even if it was good. So
that's what's so stupid. Excuse me. If it's good, don't mess with it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Right? They say.
Yeah.
And that's my point. He left it good. When Trump left, he actually left it good for them, and they messed it up. And it only took them 4 years.
I'll tell you what I would have done if I was Biden. I would have talked to Trump and said, I want to make you the border czar. You have a budget, total control, keep our country safe. And let
I
him
would have
keep
made you
it
president then, Barbara. That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
And I think Trump would have done
crazy. Oh, agreed. But they're so psycho. They hate him with a passion. I mean, I've never seen anybody hate one man in my entire life like these people hate him. You know, it's just insanity, man. It's crazy. It's just really crazy. But I agree with you. I think that's a great suggestion. That shows class and that shows integrity, something they don't have. Sorry, and if they do, they sure are hiding it. Okay.
Oh, I have thrown my hands up, and you know what? Didn't cabinets used to be a combination of people from both parties that worked together?
That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. That's
Not anymore. You know, and
it's going to be one way or the other. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's we have to destroy everything the other guy did instead of kind of build on it and make it better. I don't understand.
Right. And like I said, it's personal, if you ask me. I think he's a reflection, and he did say it right when he said, they're not after me, they're after you. It's true. He was the big firewall that was holding everything in place so that they couldn't get to everybody else. But now it's like they go after him, but they're also going after everybody else. But I find that what they're going after is symbolic of universal energies, a very cosmic flow. We're not talking, you know, the energy of what we're describing here is really about universal freedom. And that's something that Trump does engineer, I mean, in a sense of his own psyche, whether people realize it or not. I see it. And I see universal freedom. I'm not religious. I'm not like the religious code that everybody else has. I'm a galactic universal, but I can tell you point blank, that's what we're looking at. And why would you want to stop universal freedom? We're not judging anybody. We're not persecuting anybody. But I think that this thing has just gotten off the rails. I think it's just gotten crazy. I think Hollywood has been a huge, huge disservice to everybody by their propaganda and the stuff they're doing with mainstream, you know, I think talk shows and all the garbage they're spewing. And, you know, these people that have a lot of followers, these overpaid entertainers, I don't call them celebrities, they're literally a problem because they've sat there and they've encouraged that kind of thing to happen. And we talk about, you know, we're worried about his assassination attempts and this and the other. Well, yeah, because they've incited it. They want to deny that. But I've seen the sound bites. I've watched Hollywood incite people every single day to do something harmful. And then something happens and they're shocked. Really? You know they're trying to do it. That's a narcissistic sociopath. Sorry. It's the truth of it, you know? I can't believe it. Like I said, this whole theory is crazy as can be. So I would say the light at some point will infuse onto this realm, however it formulates itself. But to me, these guys are in the war zone. They're on the war path, and that's concerning to me because there's no control. They're out of control. They really are. With a smile and a snicker, they're out of control.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, I mean, I wasn't going to do the monthly forecasts anymore because I found them, you know, scary. And I was talked back into it. And this last one was really interesting in that it talked about what can we do, how can we, you know, remember. And you know, I'm to a place where I don't want to, I don't want to be one of these that says, you know, this party's going to win, this party's going to lose. You know, I'm not into that kind of stuff. It's like, what is life going to be like? How are we going to live?
Right.
How are we going to survive? And
get away from them. It's like a divorce.
Well, yeah, and when
Go ahead.
when I took a look at November through January, all I could see was chaos. Whether it and I see fire, and I see water, and I see earthquakes, and you know, it's just it's almost it's not end times type stuff, but it's, you know, humanity is I don't think we may well be hit by missiles. We will not be hit by nuclear missiles. But I don't want to see that. And I keep looking at Israel and Jerusalem, and I look at the Dome of the Rock, and all one bomb has to do is hit the Dome of the Rock, and all hell is going to break loose. They're all playing nice. They're all playing nice. But at some point, someone is going to use a nuclear weapon.
Oh yeah, but there's more than that. I mean, in a sense, in my opinion, I thought this is what I'm looking at is that their version of nuclear weapons. In my opinion, I think they're going to use something that mirrors a nuke, but isn't a nuke to create a psyop. I could be wrong, but that's what I see. That it's not necessarily a nuke, but it's going to look like a nuke. And most people will use it as, like I said, like reminds me of back in 2020 when we had things that simulated something else. So another simulation, another exercise that creates this havoc. And of course, I think you're right here. I see a lot of that too, and so far. But you can feel it. I don't know about you, Barbara, but the energy here is disgusting to me. And I'm not an empath. I'm really not. I'm not like most people. But I can tell you, the vibe, I can't stand it anymore. And that's why I kept saying the only way out is up and off planet, to live off planet, to live peacefully, to be happy again, and to a different space-time configuration. And that's me. I mean, I'm a traveler, man, and that's me. That's where I want and I choose to go. And I look at the different worlds and realms here, and I'm thinking, this is a mess. And the only solution to the equation is to live off planet. So we'll see where that rolls.
Well, I told everybody to get, a go knapsack with provisions for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I've got one. Now I can't lift it, but I could probably put it in the car and go somewhere. But my feeling is, and I've stocked up on water, and I've stocked up on, strangely, toilet paper. When they had this,
it's probably a good idea with the other stuff.
Well, they're going to do. They just put this strike off until January. It will still happen.
Oh,
but I ordered a lot of toilet paper. I'm gonna my garage is gonna look like a storage whatever. But
don't tell your neighbors.
I told everybody to stock up. But the thing is, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is, I think we're all going to see something, whether it's a missile hit and I keep seeing Trump with a bomb. Not that he is going to bomb someone, but it feels like either he's going to be bombed or they'll find a bomb and defuse it. There's something horrible. There's something horrible between November and January. End of January, I think there will be a lessening of tension. And if Trump is elected and lives to take office, I think then everybody's going to stand back and watch and see what happens. But you have to get to February.
Well, agreed. And I also find that there has to be some of these people need to be arrested at some point space-time. So we'll see where it rolls. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that your assessment's very, very on, and that's very concerning. And like I said, we cancel a lot of that to the universe, but they've set the stage for this. I mean, they've pretty much primed everything, whether it's through the border and leaving it through negligence or having something else going on. I mean, their intent to harm is quite real. And, you're looking at his enemy, his nemesis. I've never seen anything like it, as I said before. I mean, if you have a nemesis like that person's almost a serial killer mentality, that all they care about is to destroy you. I mean, that's a psychopath. That's a real psychopath, Most people break the arrow and walk away. These people aren't capable of doing that. That's very concerning. And then they bleed it on to the masses who are dysfunctional, or not everybody, but they get one target, like those freaks that get inspired to do something stupid, and all of a sudden you have another Manchurian program running. So, yeah, it can get ugly.
Well, look what happened. I mean, there are people that are basically encouraging people to go after Trump. Now, that's ridiculous.
Stupid. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I don't like the other side. I don't like, but I'm not going to sit there and set an army against them. The universe has a way of taking care of stuff. And I've trusted Madam Karma for a long time and the cosmic flow. And I can tell you at some point there's accountability for everybody. But this isn't the answer. This way they're doing things is not the answer. One thing I'll tell you is that I watched that debate the other day with the vice presidents, or the wannabe vice president. And I must say it was the most civil exchange I've seen in a long time, and that I can give them credit for. For their both behavior-wise was pretty okay. It was more neutral positive, and that was like a normal debate, like what we would expect, with the exception of cutting his mic. But other than that, I think it was very sophisticated in the sense of behavior. These guys were decent to each other. Be nice to each other. There was this motto when I trained in the boxing gym, and it was a sign my teacher had. And it would say, you walk in, you look at this big sign, it says, just be nice to each other. You don't have to love everybody. Be nice. Be nice to each other. I think, isn't that all that's all it takes, right? You don't have to sit there and you may have problems. You may not agree with everybody, but seriously, can they just take themselves out of this whole thing, look at the higher self and just look at it from a different viewpoint? and just let go.
Yeah,
I think they need therapy, to be honest with you.
No, I agree with you. I think it was so civil, and I think at one point Vance said to the other guy, I think we agree on a lot of things, and the other guy was nodding, and he said yes, and he said, unfortunately, your boss doesn't agree with me.
That's right, and he's right on. He's very genuine about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He
won that, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Vance did a good job.
But what a nice change it was to see something that simple. I mean, they introduced their wives to each other afterwards. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I think agreed. Yes.
Noble.
Can't that be nice? Yeah, can't we just have a nice communication with different types of people? Can't we just do that again? Seriously, what happened here?
Of course we can, but now it's I don't know what they're fighting for, because the country is in such horrible shape.
That's what I mean.
It's going to take 4 years to put it back in shape.
Oh, geez, it's going to take longer than that. I mean, it depends on who gets in office. But, yeah, I mean, right now we've got a lot of damage control. I mean, they're doing damage control, but then we have a lot of cleanup, and it's going to be a mess. And depending on what they do with this whole arena, with this war zone going on and on and on, I would cut off Ukraine. I'm sorry. I'm sick and tired of this, and that needs to end yesterday. No more money to them. No more money for Ukraine. Take care of the American people. I think they said
he left, Zelensky left with, and I may be wrong with the number, but it's something horrific, like he left with $140 million.
Why?
Now that 140, and
they pimped him out like nobody's business. But there's something wrong with that guy. I'm sorry, there is, and I never trusted him. I just don't like the guy. To be honest with you, I don't like him.
And that 140 million or whatever it was could have gone to the survivors of this hurricane.
You bet. Yeah.
And why?
What's the deal?
Why hasn't the National Guard been called on?
Well, I think they're over there now, aren't they? I don't know. I mean, from what I've heard, FEMA was there, and a lot of people were just doing independent rescues and were getting threatened to be arrested and this, that, and the other. From what I've looked at, some of the stuff I've been looking at X. So, and there's footage of that. And these guys have backgrounds in police and fire and everything else, but they're trying to do the right thing and help somebody else, and they're getting hassled by somebody with an ego, basically.
Wow.
Too bad. Yeah, wow is right. Because if I was one of those people and I needed help, I wouldn't give a rat's ass who it was, as long as they could get me out of that, right? If I'm sending an SOS out and someone wants to help me, help. What's the problem?
And
how control everything, and right now at the lives at the expense of everyone else.
I had a friend here when the last hurricane was coming at us, and he panicked and he changed his flight home and he got out of here and he flew home to Pennsylvania because he was terrified of being caught in a hurricane here in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Now we got rain. Is what we got. We didn't get anything horrific. No winds, no nothing. But when you see what they went through, I mean, it's horrible. I've never seen anything that bad, and I've seen
it looks engineered. I'll be honest with you. I think it's engineered, and I don't think it's just about climate change. No, there's something else. There's something else with this. To me.
Well, come on, HARP has been able to.
Beyond HARP, I mean, you can use any type of weapon system to ramp something like that up. But go ahead.
Well, there's another one coming. I do believe they said there was another one developing in the Gulf.
Well, we've had these solar flares going on too. By the way, a couple of those happened yesterday. Well, so it's kind of syncing up a little bit. But it's really wild. Everything's primed, so to speak. And like I said, be prepared. I think that's just not paranoid. Just be aware. And, your suggestion of having people get extra water or whatever else they need, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all.
Well,
we have our own share of issues out here with fire and this and the other. So.
Well, that's another thing. The fire is all over the place.
Oh, man. I'm like Frosty the Snowman when it comes to fire. I'm telling you right now. Do you remember the cartoon Frosty the Snowman?
I do.
Well, how he was when it was hot out. He'd just melt. But I'm just like,
melting.
yeah, I don't like fire. I'm like Frankenstein too, I guess. I like some fire, some of it. No,
Well,
thanks. I've been through a lot of that, So.
Well, I got 5 or 6 different weather things on my phone, and I am learning how to read these maps. And I was talking to somebody, and I said, "Well, I'm not sure where the jet stream is, and that'll determine where this flows." And everybody looked at me and said, well, "What's your degree in?" And I said, "Special ed." but when you live in a place where tornadoes are common and they happen, you learn to look at the storms and know just what it is you're going to get hit with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but be watchful. No, it's wise.
Well, it's. I mean, this is the first time living in Nashville where you get warnings on the TV and you get warnings on your phone. Take cover, take cover, take cover. Go to your safe place. And I've never had that before. So
right.
Me and the cat have spent.
It definitely put you in a different mode.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I can remember sitting in my safe place, and the cat. I didn't close the door. It's a half bath, and the cat was sitting in the hallway staring at me, and the phone rang. And it was my son. And he said, "That tornado's headed right for you." I said, "I'm very aware of that." He said, "Are you in your safe place?" I said, "Yep. Cat and I are in the bathroom." But it hit 2 miles from me, 3 miles from me.
Wow. Yeah, it's a good thing you're protected. Yeah.
But the thing that I'm kind of waiting on, the thing that I am kind of almost not hoping for, certainly, but I'm also kind of close to the New Madrid fault line. And that thing is due to go off. And if it does, my crystal will break. But and I might have waterfront property.
You might, and if the crystal breaks, that'll give you a warning anyway. But we'll cancel that to the universe too. Let's just cancel that to the universe. I don't. It's good to have the alerts on your phone. It is good to have those alerts. I have them too, and I've had to evacuate several times. And I told you about the last one I had. I had the sheriff at my door. By the time I had everything and my dogs in the car at the end of my driveway, the sheriff was pulling up to make sure I was evacuating. So I get it.
Do you have a go bag?
I have a go bag, and I've got to get all my animals. That's the thing with me. I won't leave them behind. So.
Oh no.
And the cats are a mess. I mean, when you're trying to evacuate in your car, the dogs are no problem. They get right in. Cats, where are they?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna hunt them down. A couple of them I can grab, and the last one, boy, he was a real challenge, but I did get him because they get nervous and they don't understand what's going on, but then they take off. So the dogs just want to go with me. They're fine.
When I moved from New York to Connecticut, I had 6 cats, and I managed to get, and a dog, and I managed to get all of the cats into carriers, and I couldn't find the last cat. Now the house was totally empty because all the furniture was now gone. Everything was gone, and there was one cat I could not find, and my son kept saying, "We'll have to go with that." Or I said, "No, I don't think so." And she was hiding under the dryer in the basement, and we did finally get her out. But she did not want to go. She saw everybody else get slammed into carriers, and she wasn't going to go. She did go, but oh my goodness, yes, you're right. Cats are like that.
There's something all right. Yeah,
but
be good. Yeah. Hopefully, nothing else like that transpires. So, knock wood.
Well, I'm going
to
get an extra bag of kibble for the cat and have that sitting. I won't take cans, but if I have to take the cat someplace, I'll take kibble with me. But
that's a good idea.
And I want everybody to hear what I'm saying. If you're that prepared, nothing will happen. If you're not prepared at all, watch out. So, and it
I
was
agree
funny
with
because I put the suggestion that everybody should have a go bag, and maybe it was in one of the predictions, and number of people bought go bags immediately, and somebody said to me, "Do you have one?" And I said, "Of course I do." And I got off the phone and I went right to Amazon and ordered one because I had not ordered one.
You're so funny.
But it's
they're not hard to create if you just want to, create your own bag or order one. Yeah, it's good.
Well, these
I used to have my car packed all the time. I'm so weird like that. I'm always ready. There were times when I wouldn't sleep in pajamas. I just literally am wired for being like having to be moving quickly, and so I've always had like something extra in my vehicle.
Well, I have the go bag between my garage and my safe room because I can drag it either into the car or into my safe room. So, but it's got food for a week in it, and water purification stuff, and lanterns, and first aid, and yada 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 yada. It's a good thing to have. If you never need it, it's worth the money.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I think everybody should have one. I'm surprised they don't just give them away.
Oh yeah. No, it's people don't think about that. We're civilized. We're in our homes and we're safe and everything's lovely, but it can change in a heartbeat. And you kind of want to make sure that you're prepared for weird stuff. Now where you are, fire seems to be the big deal.
There's fire and there's other concerns too. I've got a huge dam around me.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been getting really, I can't look to the universe, but I'm good at, like you are, I have a radar system, right? So I have to be very careful. I even bought my dog a life jacket. So, it is what it is. But yeah, there's fire, there's water, there's, there's more. All kinds of stuff that can happen. So,
well,
just being aware, being prepared. I don't sleep well either. We were talking about this the other night on my other show, but I sleep like 4-hour intervals. So I'm not one to sleep through the night. So that kind of has its own way of, kind of being a good alert system.
No, that's what I do.
It's my dog.
It's, I get 8 hours, but not all at once. That just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's unheard of for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's they say it should be straight 8 hours, but when they said that, they weren't thinking of the times that we were coming into. This is a time to be alert.
Yes.
So
it really is. I think everybody does have an alert system going, but to some it's almost like a PTSD. I think they're getting nervous. I was actually talking to a few other people and just, common people in a sense of regular people who just work jobs and nice, but not really, into what's going on a bigger scale. And they're feeling it through their energy. They're nervous, they're restless, or they're just not sleeping right. There's all kinds of stuff. Their alert system's definitely showing them and telling them that there's something that they need to be aware of. And I think that's what most people are feeling right now in this country. There's an uneasiness, an unsettling that's going on. Even the animals, we've done shows about animals. My animals are really not aggressive in any form, but they've been on guard. Orion, the big saint, he's constantly on guard. Like I've never seen him before. He's never been this way. He's always been a gentle giant, but he's very aware. There are times when he'll be just like out looking out the window all night. He doesn't normally do that unless there's something out there. Sometimes we get a moose, this, that, and the other. But my point is that his radar system is dialed into something. I know it is. So, and I watch the cats. I watch my animals.
Oh, yeah.
And I pay attention, too, because they'll alert me to what's outside. But there's definitely something afoot. And I think people should just be aware. We've got some rough months coming ahead, and I'm glad you have a forecast for everybody to let them know.
Yeah.
Good or bad, be prepared for it, whatever it is.
Yeah, and if anybody is not on my mailing list, you go to my website, join the circle, and you'll get the monthly forecast sent to you automatically. And I don't abuse I don't abuse the privilege of having people's emails. I send out the and then there's a weekly card. There's a card of the week that goes out too, but I don't mail that out. It's on the website and it's on the YouTube channel, and I try to put it on social media too. So it's there's a lot going on. This is a time when a little extra anything helps, and and I'm not one for organized religion, but if you are a member of an organized religion, go to church. And if you're not, find a prayer group or a meditation group or some way to kind of zone out and zone in and touch into the spiritual energy that's out there, because it's important. And the more connected you are, the easier it will be for you to kind of navigate the times that are yet to come.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. And everybody has their own way of meditating or doing their own thing with their religions. But at some point, I've always said it, it'd be nice if everybody just kind of focus on the higher consciousness design and let go of the training wheels, so to speak, and just go to the next level. You know what I mean? Because there's so much conditioning in those arenas. People in religious organizations want to point fingers and swords at people who are in the metaphysical areas, and it's just like, come on, guys, you're going to have to learn to get along, coexist, seriously, and be compassionate with each other if you can. That'd be good too. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying that's the biggest division we have right now is everybody's belief systems clashing, which has created a political situation too.
That's the problem, because unfortunately, organized religions, really aim arrows at each other, just like political parties do. And
they do. Well, it is political. It's a club,
So it's kind of you want everybody to understand. I think the one thing everybody doesn't understand is we are all one family. And
if you look at it on a cosmic scale, they don't want to do that though.
Well, I know we had. I belong to an HOA here, and we've had some difficulties where there was going to have to be assessments and things like that. And people were getting divided and pointing fingers and everything. And I quieted them all down, and I said, "Look, we're one family, and if somebody in the family has trouble, we will make allowances. We will do whatever we can so that everybody is taken care of, not just those that happen to have big bank accounts, of which I am not one." So, it kind of was, let's remember here, we work together or we fall apart. Oh, I like that.
You see the fragmentation going on right now.
Yeah,
That's true. Let's put it down in one of your books. But it is definitely, there's a lot happening here. But I think in situations, people either step up or they completely just flake out. And I see that a lot of people are stepping up right now on a spiritual level. Just like I said, the spirit of America, I guess is the word, because it's really beyond religion and indoctrination. Good people, good character, And I think that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
To get the political and corporate stuff out of the way, and the power trips and everything else associated.
I mean, if you see somebody in need, are you going to ask them what political party they are? Or are you going to just take care of them if you can?
Exactly.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Well, that's pretty much what they try to do, though. I mean, that's how split they were with this whole scenery. I mean, they're nuts. Profiling everybody who voted for Trump and putting them on their red list. I mean, it was crazy. There's still stuff going on with that. I mean, come on, guys. It's insane.
All I know is it doesn't matter who wins. We're in for trouble.
I agree. We've got turbulent waters here. No doubt. No doubt.
So
out. Cosmic surfboard.
Well, stock up.
I like the cosmic surfboard myself. What's that?
I said stock up.
Much better than the other stuff. Yes.
Oh, geez, yeah. No, it's I was thinking there has to be some way or a form of something that we can use the podcast for. Whether it is, I mean, not preaching from a soapbox, but I don't know, maybe meditation of some sort. There's got to be a way to use this tool help people find peace, tranquility, whatever, for a few moments to be able to face whatever else it is out there that we have to face, whether it is paying your credit cards or whatever. But and I haven't come up with it yet, but I think that we've got a wonderful tool here. There's got to be a way to use it to help people get through the times that we've got coming.
Right. I think meditation or a little meditation group, or even doing like a few minutes of meditation. I know your cards, your oracle deck is a prime example of that's very meditative. It has an audio to it, right?
Yeah.
So people want to listen to that. I think that's very calming.
Yeah, the app does have the audio for all the cards in the deck. So, yeah, which was, that's
kind of nice. That's a thought.
It's kind of that is definitely a way of finding peace and tranquility to a great degree. There's got to be a way to break down the barriers that have been put up between all of us, and that's what the news broadcasters do. They create barriers. They sling dirt here and sling dirt there, and even the news broadcasters are not reporters. They're broadcasters.
They're just
like
information. Yeah.
They're like you and me, and
at least we're organic. Well, they're not like us. We're actually cosmically organic. They're just all they're doing is dictation. They're taking dictation down. They're taking information and talking. That's literally been written for them. They're not even communicating in anything that's cosmically organic. It's all propaganda. I wouldn't say all propaganda, but a lot of it is. Most of it is, and that's why independent media has been such a threat for so long, because we got out here and started rattling their cage a little bit with the truth. Then they call it conspiracy and everything else. So who cares what they call it? We know we're right. I know where I've been. I know the data codes are right. So I can't speak for everybody on this, in this industry area.
I think, and that's why I've been censured. You've been censured.
Sure.
And we kind of toe up to that censor line every few times we do a show. But then it's a matter of finding platforms that aren't going to censor us and put the information out there on that. And so I did check out your Odyssey.
Okay.
That was fascinating. Do you know how many shows you have up on there?
There was from my YouTube channel. So that what happens is they just transfer everything over from YouTube onto Odyssey. So there's hundreds and hundreds, I'm sure, but they did take quite a few down on YouTube back in the day, because I've been out for a long time. I've been out there forever. Well, I went through everything and just kind of, go ahead.
They only took about 400 of my YouTube channel, and there are 800 there.
Oh, is that it?
So, I don't know. And the other place that I'm going to begin putting stuff up on is BitChute.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the shows are there. And Blog Talk Radio has 1,100 shows on it. So, there are lots of places where the shows are, and on my website as well. So, even if YouTube doesn't like something, that's okay. It gets out there anyhow in spite of YouTube, because YouTube is just one of many platforms that the material is on. So
it's just one corporation that's trying to censor everybody. I think they've gotten worse ever since Google. That was when it was a problem. I don't recall them ever trying to do that kind of damage control before. So it got really a little bit more insane with them around.
Well, we'll see what happens.
But there's plenty of corporations, though. Yeah, no, you'll be fine. Like I said, the data's out there, and the right people resonate with it, and the right people find it somehow through spirit, through energy, through algorithms. Who knows? But they'll find it.
Oh yeah. No, it was upsetting at first, and then I realized, well, wait a minute. I'm on 20 different platforms. YouTube's just one of them. That's no big deal. So.
No, nobody cares. Actually, it's like yawn whenever they try to take anything down. I don't even care. And I don't even use my YouTube account. I mean, I just don't care. I rarely use it. I get on there once in a while, but not very often.
Well, it's kind of like, I think that the people I talk to have material that's well worth listening to. And I think when you and I talk, we say some very intelligent things. So,
oh, yeah.
So,
no, it's gold. No doubt about it. It really is. And then a lot of people out there are feeling this way. They don't have anybody to hear like a sounding board. And sometimes if they're listening to a show like this, they'll like, wow, I felt like that too, or they can resonate with it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you were talking about how people feel when they're, not necessarily scared, but maybe concerned. And all of a sudden they hear a good show that has something in resonance with what they're thinking about, and they feel better. So that's something to look at.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's what's so cool is, I mean, there are sun flares out there, and that means that your energy is going to feel edgy, as though something's wrong, something's going to happen. It's anticipatory nerves, and you don't know what you're nervous about. And the sun flares the sun flares are a big deal at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the sun is spitting out stuff like crazy, and it does.
So I
disrupt.
can't imagine why. Look at the world. Yeah.
But it does. It disrupts the electronics. It disrupts.
Mm-hmm.
For a while there, even Blog Talk was having trouble with communications. So it's a scary thing. And when you get that kind of energy, and then there's craziness going on top of it, it makes it even worse, because then you become paranoid. And when you become paranoid,
mm-hmm.
you become fearful, and then you are prone to overreact to whatever may be going on and get swept away in directions you don't really want to be in. And it is
mm-hmm.
a crazy time. So, I know my sister said she was just laying low for the next week or so, because things were so strange out there. And it's true, they are, but not everybody can lay
mm-hmm.
low.
Not me. I get ramped up, if anything.
Well, yeah. and the thing is, though, if you have a job you have to go to, there's no way you can not go to the job. You just have to be aware that something is going on that is making you more irritable than you normally would be. So just be aware of that. It's sort of like, it's like menopause, and men will not relate to this, and anybody who is under 50 won't relate to it, but there are a lot of over 50s out there. And when menopause hits, your electronic system goes haywire a little bit every now and then, and that's what's happening here. And you get angry and you get frustrated and you bite people's heads off. So, it's that kind of energy. And depending on how you react to that kind of stuff, it will be intensified because of what's going on in the universe these days. So just be aware that you may be triggered more easily, faster than normal, and try to not cock yourself so that you go out and explode at people, because it's going to be happening. There are going to be gatherings that turn angry. There already are, and for the next, we're in October, and the closer we get to November, the worse it's going to get. And then November through January, please be careful. Mark it on your calendar. These are times when you want to do a lot of things in the home. You don't want to go out, and you don't want to travel. You definitely don't want to travel.
That's good advice. That's coming right up, too.
Yeah, well,
that's a good rundown of information.
I will continue to put it out, because, I have friends that have known me for, 40 years or more. And they say, you say these things that sound so strange, and they happen. And so a lot of them actually do pay attention, which is good. I'm not saying lock yourself in the basement, but do be cautious. No big concerts.
Situation awareness. I see a lot of people that have they're not looking at anything. They're just literally tunnel vision. I saw one gal in her car today. First of all, she parked too close next to me, and I was like, really? So then of course I look over at her like, what? and she's putting her makeup on, and she's like oblivious to anything around her radius. I mean, just strange units, you know? Weird people. I don't like people who park too close to me anyway. So, and I park away from everybody. So if I find somebody out there parking really close to me, when I park away from people, that's kind of weird.
Well,
but nonetheless,
I have a handicap parking sticker, and I use it because it does give me a little bit more room on each side. I'm claustrophobic, and that's not why I have the handicap sticker. But I just don't like to be squeezed in anywhere. I don't like to feel like I don't have elbow room, that I can't maneuver if I have to. And these days, it's more and more and more like that. And I try not to. I go to the grocery store if I can manage it once a month. I just don't like to be in crowds, and that's just me.
Yeah.
But I touch the world from the radio
that's probably
show.
wise.
Yeah.
Well, that's the nice thing about radio is you can be a voice and out there. You don't have to be sitting side by side with anybody. It's really kind of nice.
Well,
I love it, actually. I love night radio. What's that?
Oh, yeah. The pandemic was golden for podcasters because authors couldn't get anywhere, so the only way they could advertise was on podcasts, which was, kind of cool that we were there and available to put out. But just noticed our time frame. Let people know where they can get a hold of you and all your material and your shows.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Once again, a lovely show with you today, so thank you. And I'm over there, and you can find me at Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturday night, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific on Revolution Radio Studio A, and Hyperspace Night Files is also on Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A. And then I have everything's on Amazon.com. All my books are available out there. Solaris BlueRaven, you can find me over there if you want to read my works. And, yeah, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful show, as always.
Oh, always, always. And let me just put a codicil here. Her books are great. Read them in order, because if you don't read them in order, you're going to wonder what you stepped into. So build one upon another. And they're great books. They really are. I absolutely adore them. No, they're wonderful books. They have great advice and great information. But again, if you read them in order, you're going to get an education like you couldn't get in college for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that says a lot coming from you as a teacher, so thank you.
Well, hey, listen, they are amazing books. And, I wish, I'm still working on getting another book going. And, maybe... No, I have between November and February to write because I'm not going anywhere.
Nice.
So,
well, excellent. We'll get it rolling.
Okay, so we will be together again at the end of October sometime, and it's my turn to pick topic. So I'm thinking seriously about your Halloween. Well, we have a time. There's no way either of us will be ready, but we'll see. We'll see.
Probably
I was thinking about maybe reading your Halloween book, which was wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that would be honored. Yeah, that'd be cool.
We can take turns reading pages and stuff. But let's just see where we are with our other research. So until then,
sounds good.
This is Neon Twilight signing out, and we'll see you all next time. And next Monday is another Gary Wayne show with part 2 of his 8-part series. So do and join us then. Good night, everybody.